Hello and welcome to Politics Today. I'm Farhan. Today, as you know, Prime Minister of Pakistan has returned from China's visit, and after that he chaired a special, meeting of a National Security Committee of the Cabinet, and in that, one thing that was emphasized, and that has a lot of impact, that has a lot of context here as well, is about the linkage between national stability and economic growth and progress. And it was emphasized that in order for the country to attain its economic goals, the country has to focus on law and order as well. So we are going to talk about both the things. The visit of the Prime Minister to China, because that is important, and the more focused issue that we have to carry on from yesterday is about law and order situation. If you remember, yesterday we discussed how law and order situation, especially extremism and such challenges, were addressed by the National Action Plan. And after that, at that time, repeatedly it was said that the country is going to come up with a narrative against extremism. But somehow we didn't see that kind of a narrative coming forward. Now we have a new government in town. The new government has spent something like slightly more than 60 days in office. So it is perhaps too early to say what the new government is going to do. But the previous government didn't come up with that narrative. That's why we saw the imbroglio we saw during the past week. So we are going to talk about both these issues. In order to help us understand these matters, we are joined by Dr. Ziaul Haq, who is DG Islamic Research Institute. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Next to him is Shaukat Piracha sahab, needs no introduction, but a senior journalist, an anchor, a columnist, a reporter. Whatnot. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Next to him is Dr. Niaz, a political economist, a political analyst as well. And above everything else, as I repeatedly remind you whenever he comes to the program, one of my favorite columnists. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Since we are talking first about the China visit, Dr. Niaz, I have to start with you. Because in Pakistan, usually the expectations are that you are going to bring some kind of package or some kind of major deal when you come back home. But the Chinese style is quite different. Whenever it actually provides you economic assistance, it usually does it without any fanfare. So what is your assessment of Prime Minister's visit to China?
Well, I think the big issue is, the kind of hype that was built around it and, the kind of, expectations that were built around it. You say there's, expectations in Pakistan, but at least in this case, those expectations were actually developed by the government itself, its various ministers, that, we've already got about $6 billion from China as immediate aid. And now, we'll probably get something similar from Saudi Arabia.
From Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia, and now we are going to China, and we are going to get, a similar amount, maybe slightly smaller.
Which minister said that?
The Wazir, the information minister, the finance minister.
No, he said that there is a possibility of something big.
There is a possibility. And, many of these things are, decided beforehand.
But today,
when you are going for the trip, most of these things are already decided beforehand by lower level.
Today, when two of the leading ministers of the cabinet, senior ministers, one the finance minister and the other foreign minister, sit together in a presser, and they say that now the country doesn't have any balance of payment crisis, and we had a gap of 12 billion. 6 was covered by Saudi Arabia, and now we are back. We don't want to discuss it, but the rest has been covered as well. Don't you think it is an implicit indication that there might be something?
Maybe something might come in the future, but there's still nothing in hand, as said. Nothing was, announced in the joint press conference that you had, the joint, communication that came out of
the joint
visit,
statement,
the joint statement. Nothing has been mentioned, but what has been mentioned is that the state bank governor and, the secretary finance are going back. So it's quite possible that they might be, discussing all that, and something might come up later.
Right.
But as of now, if you compare it with what the expectations were built from the government, in that sense you can say it's a bit disappointing.
Okay.
And the stock exchange did express a disappointment. It fell by about 1,000 points. But in other areas there might have been some progress.
Stock exchange might be connected with the international developments, not merely our own economic matters. But let me bring in Shaukat Piracha sahab. Say your take on the visit.
The top of it, as you talked about joint briefing by two senior ministers who accompanied the Prime Minister to China. Finance Minister today in the same presser, he said that the crisis of $12 billion, that is resolved. And he talked about the Saudi intervention, that Saudi Arabia filled the gap around $6 billion. And he, at the same time, he said the rest of the gap will be filled by China. That was exact statement. It means Chinese, they are also doing it. Now, the Finance Secretary, the Foreign Affairs Secretary, Commerce Secretary, Governor State Bank and Secretary Planning and Development, they are leaving for China in a day or so.
For the JCC meeting, right?
No. That's a separate platform.
That is going to happen later.
This delegation is going to talk of two things. The one is the same balance of payment support, that how much China can contribute. Dr. Niaz is very right. The expectation was high in this country. And even there was a desire in Pakistan at the highest level that if, as the Saudis, they have contributed, if China contributes and little bit is contributed by UAE, then we will not like to go to the IMF. IMF is not something bad or something worse, but it's the conditionalities that are attached. The higher the volume of assistance is required, the more the more
and the
conditionalities. The second aspect for which this delegation is leaving for China is to explore maximum exports from Pakistan to China. If you heard the Chinese President Xi Jinping while he was addressing the Expo inauguration, he talked about allowing the external world to send more and more exports to China. So if we can get a greater chunk of our exports, which is at the moment around $2 billion to China, around $2 billion. So if its volume is enhanced to $5-6 billion, then is the dream of prosperity is closer then. Another aspect, that the currency swap agreement and doubling the size, this will also decrease the pressure on the balance of payment situation. Then again, another aspect is very important to me. Before leaving for China, since the inception of this government, whether someone agrees or disagrees, but there was a kind of uncertainty about CPAC, whether this government owns it.
That is not clear, right?
Now it's clear,
Thank you very much for saying that, because that is very important content as well, because we saw it in joint statement.
Not only it's clear, but there is no expansion. There will be expansion in CPAC.
Right, Dr. Shaukat Piracha sahab, thank you very much for that comment. Yeah, I stand corrected. But I have to now go to Dr. Ziaul Haq, and I have to ask about the second issue that simultaneously was happening in Pakistan. We saw a protest on the street, and of course then there was some kind of violence as well. After that, one realizes that no matter whatever you do, you are, and one has to kick the can down the lane, down the road. But simultaneously, the long-term goals of fighting extremism somewhere are lost. So, Dr. Saab, what is your take at this moment on combating extremism and building a narrative to counter that?
First of all, I would like to tell you that what happened in last week, it was a challenge for us. And unfortunately, we are still facing such type of challenges. These challenges are seriously counterproductive for the progress and particularly for the reconstruction of Pakistani society. For dealing with such type of challenge is Pakistani state and the government of Pakistan, with the help of ulama, they have developed Paigam-e-Pakistan. This Paigam-e-Pakistan, this is a national narrative, and it was launched by the President of Pakistan in presidency. This Paigam-e-Pakistan up to now has been signed by 5,000 ulama, religious leaders. It is developed by the 5 major educational boards of the religious education, 5 major madrasa boards. So all sects are involved in the preparation and articulation of this national narrative. It is also approved by the Imam of Kaaba. It is also approved by the Sheikh al-Azhar. Sheikh al-Azhar, he himself translated it into Arabic and he has wrote introduction for it. Recently it has been approved by 5-6 grand muftis of the Muslim countries.
You mean endorsed by them?
Endorsed by them. So this is actually a unanimous voice of Pakistan to deal with extremism and the challenges that are facing due to fundamental interpretations of the religious teachings. And the issues that presently we are facing, particularly for the episode that had been last week, there are of course dark side of the issue, but there are good sides, good signs that we are seeing in the Pakistani society. For example, first time,
in spite of what happened.
Yes, first time it is in Pakistan in recent years that no political mainstream major political party was ready to play religious card. So all major mainstream political parties, they were on the same page, and that is that we should not play with the religious sentiments of the people. And I think this is also part and parcel.
Are we talking about the same protest? Because MMA is protesting now in Karachi?
Even there's a difference of the attitude of MMA and with the
You're talking about religious political parties, right?
I'm talking mainstream parties, means PTI, Muslim League Noon and People's Party, and of course ANP and other parties. Even the attitude of MMA is different from the attitude of the Dharna group, Dharna group, because they have reservations on the decision of the Supreme Court, but they are not taking as going towards the destruction.
I get that, Dr. Saab, and I'm sure that since you have opened the book, you would like to quote something as well. But I have one important question regarding what you're carrying. Two questions. First, I hope I'm going to get this copy.
Yes, you will
once
get it.
we end this program. The second thing is, the second thing about this is, it is theoretical, right?
Yes.
In political science, we are taught that you have to have theory and then you have to operationalize it as well. How are you going to operationalize this narrative?
Yes, this is a wonderful question. I would like to tell you the first part of this was its articulation. We completed that part in the beginning of this year. Now the second part is
after 16, 17 years of fighting war and terror.
There's a long history of challenges that we are facing and we had been facing. And the second part of this is its compliance. For the compliance, International Islamic University's Islamic Research Institute has prepared with the help of Higher Education Commission a comprehensive plan of reconstruction of an inclusive Islamic society in Pakistan. This inclusive Islamic society, this is a concept that is emerging from objective resolution, and this is the spirit of all the constitutions of Pakistan, particularly the constitutions of 1973. In accordance with that spirit, we are arranging different activities and we are engaging religious leaders to work for the reconstruction of Islamic society in Pakistan. And the issues that we are facing for last 1 week, these issues are on the top priority when we are discussing and
I'm going to come back to that. Allow me to go to Dr. Niaz Murtaza once again. Dr. Niaz Murtaza, I understand that you have written on this subject as well recently. And the problem at this moment is that while we keep on talking about narratives, and you know how many shows I have conducted on the counter-narrative against terrorism, but somehow we don't seem to have the same kind of impact. The country keeps on developing these, pockets of radicalization where people just want to misconstrue things and get angry. What exactly is to be done about that?
Well, I mean, it's fine to, develop a document like this, but, as we all know, actions speak.
Have you gone through it?
No, I haven't gone
through it. Did you hear about it?
I've heard about
Okay,
it, yeah,
okay.
but I haven't gone through it. I mean, as we know, actions speak louder than words. You can have these narrative, etc. But, if you're getting a counter message from, especially when you talk about the government, if you look at its policies, if its policies in various areas are giving another message which is counter to this narrative, then, it doesn't really gel. So, there is the issue that if, all these people come out on the streets and, they spew hate, they come up with all kind of extremist messages, and then all the government does at the end is, have an agreement with them, give them the status of being co-equal to the state itself, right. Then, what kind of message are you giving to people?
But Dr. Saab, here's the question. On one side, you and I and many of our friends keep on demanding the government not to, succumb to any pressure and not to cut any deal. But repeatedly, we have seen our own behavior pattern as well. If you remember the Red Mosque episode, the entire media was shouting atop their voice, where is the state, why are they not taking action? The moment action is taken, everybody immediately changes position and says, look, there was a crime against humanity that is being, that is taking place. Look, so many people might have died. No evidence there, but they kept on doing it. So,
well, those are the consequences of delaying action.
Okay.
If action had been taken 6 months ago,
not
a
the
year
media
ago,
and intelligentsia,
because this is right here in Islamabad.
Sir, so not the media and intelligentsia's desire to have it both ways?
No, I don't think at all. I mean, what media is saying is, take the civil society, intellectuals, media, take proactive action when, things are still in the developing stage. So, if action had been taken, this mosque sits right so close to Apara, where all our, intelligence agencies are based.
You could have said so close to the parliament, you didn't say that.
Did they not know that, there are tunnels being built, there are arms that are flowing in, these kind of, messages are being given in sermons, there are,
I get
teaching
that
classes
point.
that are going on.
I get that point. My concern is, today you're demanding action. Tomorrow, when action has taken place, you will, not you personally, but many people will abandon the issue and immediately start inculpating the state rather than standing with it.
Well, even in this case, this TLP had made it very clear that if the Supreme Court, exonerates her, they're going to shut down the country. So the government had a warning. Okay. That was the time to, really act.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Even before the judgment came out, because it was quite clear, the chances were that, Supreme Court will exonerate her.
Right.
So the government should have been prepared for that eventuality.
How can we be sure that there were signs?
Well,
whatever is going to
occur. For every eventuality, these people are threatening the state that if Supreme Court exonerates her, they're going to come out on the street and lock the country.
That is true, but that is their position. We cannot prejudge.
I've spoken with lawyers. They said that this was sufficient to arrest these kind of people.
Right, Shaukat Piracha Sahab. Are we media walas try to have it both ways? On one side, we keep on saying action, action, action. The moment action is taken, we say, blood, blood, see how badly it was managed. And if there is an agreement which dissipates the situation, then again we have problem. You have compromised your position.
It could be any way, because this is the same media which time and again on many occasions have fulfilled their national responsibility by not, inflaming the situation.
Okay.
For example,
not saying anything.
No, by hiding or not putting on air something which could further trigger the situation. For example, I gave you 1/10 of Muharram Yom Ashur, there was a problem in Pindi. And I was also there, but for most of the time, for 10-15 hours, not a single slide was run.
And here lies the problem. On one side, we have to report everything graphically. in graphic details. On the other side, then we pretend nothing is happening. Not even an iota. You can't even give a narrative of the state.
No. The situation was different, you know. When there was a problem that two sections, they were literally fighting against each other.
Okay.
If there would have been something on the TV, the both factions, they could have triggered it all over the country.
Okay.
But this situation is not like that, you know. Here, one party or protesters, whatever they were doing, you know, that was on the social media. People were sharing clips, and you have seen it.
Right.
From that banana seller to what happened on motorway, how the women and kids, they were badly treated.
And our information minister actually brought that kid, that banana seller, banana vendor,
But it's not
in front of camera, and I liked it. At least somebody is there to stand with the victim.
You see, is that the only victim? The
Yeah,
whole country is victim.
But it is a symbolic gesture.
If you allow me to speak,
Sir.
the whole country is victim.
Okay.
These around 200 million, you know, they are victim. You know, what happened, a country with a nuclear weapon state called, you know, and country of 200 million.
How do you conflate the two? I mean, nuclear weapons are for external defense, and they're there. I don't know, people keep on mentioning
No. It reflects your genius, your might, you know.
Okay.
I mean, it's a when we say we built this weapon, it means we have the capacity, we have the might, you know.
Yeah.
So
I can say that a country that has won World Cup is having this problem. Can I?
I mean,
it
cannot be equated,
Yeah.
these things, you know.
Okay.
The muscle of the country, which can build a nuclear weapon, cannot control the law and order situation. For 3 days, literally, your country was blocked. Why don't you understand these?
Yeah, but what do you do? If you take action, are you sure there won't be any blowback? Because last time there was an order in Faizabad, immediately the matter spread to throughout the country, despite the fact that all the television channels were shut down, and PTA also acted at that time. So,
if it's a simple solution, I don't have.
right.
I don't have, you know,
I get your point.
because of the complexity, you know, how this group emerged. And when Pakistan was being, developed, this group was not there. Suddenly, this group was formed. This group emerged on the national screen.
Right. Let me ask Dr. Zia whether this group was there or not, or somebody in some semblance was there or not. Dr. Zia.
Actually, as I mentioned, that 5 boards, Murtaza boards, they are controlling all the religious education.
Yeah.
And
all the sects as well.
And one board that is dealing with the Barelvi School of Thought, that was on board, and Mufti Munibur Rahman, he was leading that school of thought. So they were on board, and the majority of their ulama, they signed. Recently, we have several workshops in which some of the activists of this group, they were also participating. And they were agreed, they were showing their agreement with that. Actually, the problem that we are facing, particularly in Pakistan, and this is a problem of the Muslim societies, that we are using religious slogans for the political motivations.
Right. Yes. Right.
And this is the biggest problem. The theology that needed to be used for the understanding and interpretation of the teachings of Islam, it is used for the sake of power.
Right.
This is a big problem that we are facing in Pakistani society. And now people, they love Islam.
Right.
And even our political parties, major Pakistani political leadership, they don't have any differences on these issues. They are all agreed, respect of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, respect for the Islamic identities and the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. The constitution is protecting everything. Right. Actually is that some of the religious parties, they are using, they are in waiting, they are always in reactionary mood. So they are waiting for any incident to come so that they can show their power to the people.
And what is the power?
Power, bringing the people on the road.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are people who are following them, right?
There are people who are following them, and they know this is the same methodology that was used by the extremist groups.
I'm glad that you actually talked about methodology.
Yeah, yes.
Ignore their methodology. Let us talk about our methodology.
Yeah, our methodology.
Narrative is important, right?
Yes.
But whether it is going to be a book or whether it is going to be a self-executing, process that involves as many people as possible is up to us, right?
Yeah, it is up to us. You are agree.
The question at this moment is, how do you identify or quantify extremism in this society? Do we have any matrix to actually judge what exactly is going on? Because I went to the PBS, Pakistan, Bureau of Statistics website. There, the number given for the Muslim population is 96.8% of the entire population. That means the country shouldn't be hearing that Islam is under threat, right? It must be allowed.
Yeah.
But simultaneously, the numbers are not broken down into sectarian, trees. I don't know how many Barelvis there are, how many Devbandis there are, how many Al-Tashi are there. Without knowing that, can you develop a message that will be acceptable to all the, various, identities and various classes of thought in religion?
Yes, we can do it. Here is a methodology. I will let you know the methodology. The methodology is that was adopted by Prophet, peace be upon him, when he established first Islamic state in Medina. That is the methodology. What Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did, he recognized old identities, but at the same time new identity was introduced. The Muhajir and Ansar, this was the new identity. Okay. This new identity, it was the identity that was prevailing on the society. We need to do the same. We have to introduce that one has a right to be follow any sect, any school of thought. Yeah. But no one has a right to denounce the other. This is one core point. And the second thing is that the sectarian differences are intellectual differences. Right. Bringing these intellectual differences to illiterate mass is a very dangerous phenomenon. Yeah.
Or and rather, let us not call the mass illiterate. Let us say that these differences, when they are weaponized, they can be used against the interest of religion.
And what we need is that we should, through Paigam-e-Pakistan, we are working to change these differences into diversity.
How does it reach the illiterate mass?
We are trying.
It is a written word.
No, it is written, but it will go through the sermons. We are engaging ulama, and the sermons which are used presently for negative images of Islam, we are trying to promote positive images of Islam and positivity through the sermons.
Have you sent it to televangelists, the people who appear on television and preach religion?
We are sending it. Even we are
for our anchors, for that matter.
For anchors, for journalists, we are engaging with them, workshops, we are inviting them, they are speaking out on it, and we are arranging youth conferences on it.
Right. Dr. Niaz Murtaza, I have to bring the matter to you. You can speak about whatever was said, but a humble submission. The only reason why there is extremism is that you and I, people who have more exposure in the world, have outsourced the job of reading, learning, and interpreting religion to clerics. We could easily, or Dr. Saab, you, I, and Shaukat Piracha could have contributed in the debate, but we usually don't do it. Clerics do it. Why have we done that? We could have studied the faith more closely because it is part of our identity, and perhaps our input could have increased awareness in the society too.
Well, at some level that does happen, within families, within, extended families, communities, of course, parents, relative, other adults do, pass on the message to children from a very early age. But then, of course, there is also the fact that when they go to mosques or when they go to school, there are clerics. But again, it's not just, this is not the only facet or the factor which increases extremism in society. Ultimately what happens is that especially when people grow up, they become say between 14, 15, 16, 18 and onwards. What really matters is that whether they have viable economic opportunities, whether they have social connections, whether they are properly invested in communities, whether they have a hope in the future. What we do find is that in communities where there isn't ample economic opportunities, where governance is very poor, social services are not poor, it is in those kind of environments that extremism becomes more prominent, and that's
so
where
in America, in Europe, that shouldn't be the case. There shouldn't be extremism, but there
is extremism,
and
because you do have pockets of populations
but
where
you see extremism among the rich and successful as well.
Yeah, but you do have pockets of people even in the Western countries who don't have very viable economic opportunities, and that's where all these messages from extremist groups become attractive to
I
them.
have another question regarding internet, because a lot of people, one lone wolf incident, Safura goat in Karachi, that was triggered by exposure with conspiracy theories on websites.
Exactly.
And there's this reinforcement of this image or impression that somehow Islam is under threat or the Muslim identity is under threat, and even educated people also inhale it. Do we have any way to counter that propaganda without shutting down the internet in the country?
Well, I think you again have to look at why that kind of outlook has become so common in Pakistan, even among middle class educated people. And if you go back 30, 40 years, a certain narrative has been propagated in the country, and not just in the form of books, etc. By active state policies, the regional policies that we've had, and there is this hatred that has been developed, particularly towards the West and particularly towards the United States. Anybody
Why do you
from
say
the West,
has been developed? It has developed.
It has been developed. It has been actively developed in society.
Or perhaps it is organically developed,
just look
and
at
it can go
this
down.
action against international NGOs now. No reason has been given. Nobody in the state is willing to explain and justify that action. And all you get is okay, we have to make sure that our sovereignty is there, and we have to have our security.
Are you telling me that the mass of conspiracy theories and all these theories where Islam is under threat, that might be coming from abroad? No, that is coming from outside Pakistan, and it is radicalizing other societies as well. Do you think that Pakistan has something to do with it?
Well, what I'm saying is that the state over the last 30, 40 years has actively built that narrative.
Right. And that is interesting, but let me go to Shaukat Piracha Sahab. Shaukat Piracha Sahab, another very important question regarding your and my medium, television medium, right? That is also very important. And in Pakistan, there are things that if you do or say, for you and me, there will be some kind of reprimand, there will be some kind of punishment. But when you look at the programs that have been aired on television, if you are a religiously bent anchor, you can very easily say any provocative thing in the society. And there won't be that kind of ramification for you. The day Prime Minister of Pakistan addressed the nation, one anchor lost it on television. But I didn't see any kind of punishment. I didn't see any kind of clampdown. And that must be because of the sensitivities in the society, that there can be a blowback. How do you manage that? Because in the past, we saw that there used to be programs like End of Times. And they contributed immensely to the idea that end is coming, and you have to take a position, and it has to be a violent position. We kept on fighting, people kept on dying, and yet that program will keep repeating on television every Ramadan or Muharram or any other sacred month. Why are we not watching what we are consuming?
Here you come exactly where the something is called enforcement. I mean, here are channels, religious channels, who never had any license, but they were sending their beams, they were giving their programs, and all over in Pakistan those channels were visible.
Okay.
Then
were or are?
Still,
Okay. I get it.
Again, it's a problem of enforcement. What you are saying, that if they are spreading hate, laws do not permit spreading hate. But sometimes, there are expediencies. I mean, if you want to analyze, you have to analyze in a cohesive, in a holistic manner. It's not in the compartmentalization,
Okay.
What Dr. Niaz Murtaza was saying, how this 40 years hate speeches, they were promoted at certain level. You were talking of some regulation, but and the syllabi that you were talking, these were imposed on Pakistan for certain objectives in 1980s. Then those who developed all these things, they abandoned Pakistan, and
now one of them actually is advising America on building peace in Afghanistan. Zalmi Khalilzad is supposed to be one of the contributors of that syllabus.
You see, when we analyze, we should keep all aspects in our minds. As I started this argument of enforcement, I'm really looking forward of today's meeting of the military and political leadership, and especially the last sentence I want to quote, because that's very important, very, very important. The last sentence of the meeting, which is basically the crux, that the meeting, I'm talking of
not
national
of the
security.
meeting, the statement that came after.
Yeah. The National Security Committee declaration says, today presided over by Prime Minister, where military high-ups and civilian high-ups, they were sitting, the meeting concluded that progress and prosperity of Pakistan lies in peace, stability, and rule of law. So it's not my duty, it's not your duty, that rule of law is ensured, peace is ensured.
But when a country is so shaken, like 15, 16 years in a war, does it not become a whole of nation approach that you and I also have to contribute to the debate?
Again, enforcement is not my job.
Reporting might be, right? For example,
what I'm saying here is my duty.
I understand.
That I should not spread hate. I should not spread hate. I should not go on air and incite the people from different sects or faiths.
But if you see that, there is a reporting mechanism and some citizen has to report it. For example, a Twitter handle of one of these clerics actually got blocked recently.
Yes.
And it happened, I asked, because of some advocacy group repeatedly actually reporting it to the Twitter authorities. So you and I can also do some similar things?
So enforcement...
Are we doing our bit?
You want to say something? Enforcement was needed from Twitter administration, and they did. They did it. This statement and the conclusion that the committee has concluded, I really want to see tomorrow, day after tomorrow, in the days to come, how if this conclusion is implemented. That's my question.
Right. You want to say something?
Yeah, just quick comment. We were talking about, policy. So on the one hand, you want a new narrative, and then on the other hand, the KP government has now come with a policy where no male guest speaker can visit a female school, and any function at female schools cannot be covered in the media. So,
I love it when you conflate two very different issues. I don't know how that links to extremism, but nevertheless, I understand the societies have sensitivities, and you will have more than one school of thought in any society. There will be liberals, there will be conservatives, there will be various other shades as well. But I have to go back to Dr. Zia, and I have to ask you, sir. One aspect is of ijma, ijtihad. The political nature of our faith or its interpretation conforms to certain ideas, because last ijma that was really built on ijtihad, broad-based consensus, was 800 years ago, 900 years ago. At that time, it was age of empires. It was a nation-state age. Now you have a nation-state. In order to reach to such a narrative, how important it is to actually first go to the religious clerics And I asked them, at least give us an edict on the importance or vitality of nation state, then constitution, then modern political apparatus, and then develop it. Otherwise, I will be a cleric. I will be agreeing with you on this because you have convincing power. But I want to go to the concept of empire or khilafah or something else.
No.
I won't be conforming to the nation.
I will tell you, this is very important. First of all, we are living in a real situation. And we dealt with the real situation. We started with the Constitution of Pakistan, with the sovereignty of Pakistan, and with the acceptance that Pakistan is an Islamic republic. Second thing is that when Pakistan was established in 1947, there was a concept, there was a question, what type of society will be in Pakistan? Will it be the society of the Middle Ages, or it will be a society of the contemporary, democratic and relevant society? And that was Professor Cantwell Smith. He discussed a relationship of Islam and Pakistan, and he said the success of Pakistan will demonstrate the success of Islam in the modern life. And the founders of Pakistan, and this is what is in front of us. Allama Iqbal has presented idea of reconstruction, and this idea of reconstruction is revolved around two things: dynamicism and mechanicism. Mechanicism is that we should follow whatever is existing. The concept of ijtihad is on the dynamicism of the life.
Yeah, you're talking about the 6th lecture of Allama
Iqbal.
Yeah.
The human life is dynamic. It is changing day by day. And there are new issues, there are new problems. And we need to address these problems and these issues. And for that purpose, we have to use the methodology of reconstruction in which we, through our heritage, moving to the future.
And here lies the next question, and I'm told that we are left with 2 or 3 minutes, and it is very quickly for you, sir. That when you are actually, issuing such an edict or bringing people together for narrative, there has to be certain salesmanship. Every person has to be convinced.
Yeah.
You have to actively push it, sell it to the people. And the problem is, after 9/11, maybe we were not that successful in convincing people, especially clerics, that we are not fighting Islam, we are fighting those who are miscreants. And that might have caused this problem, and now you have to have a narrative. Today, who's going to sell it? You and I cannot do it. There has to be a very extensive effort to sell it to all shades of society simultaneously.
I agree with you, and particularly I think religious leadership has to lead this process. And we are working with the religious leadership to lead this process. I would like to conclude that this narrative is also recognizing the efforts, the opportunities, and the mistakes that we have done in the past. So therefore, I would like to say that what happened in Pakistan is presently, it is not only because everything was wrong with us, there are mistakes we have done.
But there might be denial as well. Yeah. I'm told that we are actually running short of time. You want to add to it? Please do. Conclude the program.
Good effort. Yeah. I read this book, in fact. Okay. Awesome. I attended the function when this book was launched at President House, and different seminars, I have also attended. The problem which we face, Dr. Saab has rightly pointed out that they are mistakes, but we should learn from the mistakes. Yeah. Unfortunately, we are not learning from the mistakes.
Perhaps we are not learning from the operational part of it. Otherwise, he said that they have admitted in this and tried to address the theoretical parts. So very quickly.
If you allow me,
very quickly.
कुछ सफरे ज़ीस्त भी लंबा था, कुछ हम भी थोड़ा सुस्त चले, कुछ हम भी अपने दुश्मन थे, कुछ दुश्मन हमको बहुत मिले, कुछ हम मंजिल को भूल गए, कुछ रास्ते हमको सख्त मिले. ये है situation that has been in the past.
Right, Dr. Saab, you are actually reading it at the very end, so who is going to translate what you said? But let me go to the second doctor very quickly, Dr. Niaz Murtaza. If you want to conclude, please do.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a long battle. It will have to have multiple dimensions to it, and this narrative certainly is going to be a big part of it. But again, as I said, removing the conflicts between action and words and the different kind of policies.
Right, and both sides, action on both sides is needed, and there might be a whole of the nation approach, otherwise we won't be able to do much. I'm told that we have to conclude the program. Dr. Niaz Murtaza, thank you very much for your time. Shaukat Piracha, sir, thank you very much for your time as well. Dr. Zainab, thank you very much, sir, for being here. Viewers, you have listened to our participants. The issue of narrative is there. And we are talking about these matters for quite some time. It is, I'm glad that there is an effort in which so much consensus has been built. But how to operationalize it, how to actually communicate it to you, me, everybody else, and how to actually build a narrative as self-executing process where it goes to people and convinces them that fighting your own state never helps you out. That will be the challenge. And let us hope that in coming days we have more debate and more focus on these matters, because in 15, 16 years, the reason we didn't have consensus on many basic issues was that we were in denial. We were not looking on these issues at all. Now we are. Let us hope in coming days we find the solution which ensures that nobody actually goes on street and tries to jeopardize your life, my life, or the functioning of the state or the society. This was today's program. Thank you very much for watching us. Take care.